Congratulations, you've made it to the Fantasy Football Championships. And if you want to make it all the way to Week 17, you got to start the best players. So in order to do that, I've brought in Michael Fabiano, SI's senior fantasy analyst. Fabs, let's kick it off at the QB position. Who is locked and loaded in our lineups this week?
First off, QB is gross this week. There's at least 9 unstartable quarterbacks in traditional leagues going into Week 15. So stick with your studs. This might be low-hanging fruit. I'm going to go with Justin Herbert. Now, last week, he had an okay game, right? 18 fantasy points overall, fewer than 20 points in all but one of his last 9 games. But I think he goes over 20 this week against the Titans. Their defense has allowed 19-plus fantasy points to 7 quarterbacks, including 3 who've gone over 30. And Herbert has all of his weapons back. And then let's go back to Dak Prescott. Yes, last week it was a bad one for our beloved Dallas Cowboys, but good matchup this week against Jacksonville. Their defense has allowed 21 touchdown passes and nearly 19 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks, including 6 quarterbacks who've beaten them for 21 or more. Start Dak Prescott.
After a phenomenal start last Sunday, you say this is not the week to start Jared Goff.
Jared Goff is a very shaky play this week, and I get it. At home, he's been phenomenal. But on the road, he is averaging fewer than 9 points per game. This is not a guy that you want to start on the road. Listen to this, Jen. 2 touchdown passes and 7 turnovers away from Ford Field, and the Jets' defense is nasty good. I don't think you could start Goff until the championship week when he's back home against Chicago. And then I'm also benching Tom Brady. Why? He's not the same guy, folks. I mean, he's averaging 15 points per game. He was terrible last week. We told you to sit him. He's got the Bengals this week. They're allowing fewer than 14 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. So I get it. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. Not in fantasy and not this season. I'm sitting Tom Brady.
Moving over to the running back position, you say it's safe to start J.K. Dobbins. He did a lot more than we expected last Sunday.
Yeah, I like J.K. Dobbins a lot this week. Had a good game last week, 28% of the touch share. And then you look at the matchup this week against Cleveland. They've allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to running backs. I don't trust a lot of Ravens this week, including Mark Andrews. I do trust J.K. Dobbins. And then Isiah Pacheco. I know Jerick McKinnon was the big hero last week, and I think he's startable as a flex this week as well. But Pacheco is a guy that will start for the Chiefs. He's getting the majority of that early down work. This is going to be a blowout, at least we think so, against the Texans, which means that Pacheco will run the ball a lot in the second half. And oh, by the way, the Texans, of course, allowing the most fantasy points to running back. So start Isiah Pacheco, and then you could flex McKinnon as well.
Looking at your sit list for running backs, I'm noticing a theme here. It looks like you don't particularly like the Lions versus the Jets this weekend.
DeAndre Swift is going to drive me nuts. That Lions backfield is going to drive me nuts. I thought he was a good play last week because of the usage the week before. Guess what? 15.8% touch share last week, and now he's got the Jets, and I just fear that defense. Their defense is very good. They're allowing 85 rushing yards per game, the running back, so I'm going to fade DeAndre Swift. Same thing with Cordero Patterson against the Saints. Now, the team is coming off a bye, but he's been getting almost half of the workload split with Tyler Algier. So Patterson is not the clear featured back for this team anymore. So I don't think Patterson is worth anything more than a desperation flex play against New Orleans. Also keep in mind, rookie quarterback going this week, so maybe the Saints are going to be able to key on that run.
Moving over to your stardom wide receivers, Big Mike came back last week in a big way, and this week we can expect a rookie who has quite a knack for the end zone.
Mike Williams was great last week, had a huge game, 116 yards, scored a touchdown, looked very good against the Dolphins. Now he's got the Titans. Their defense has allowed 14 touchdowns and the 2nd most fantasy points to perimeter receivers. So Mike Williams is a virtual must start this week. Of course, Keenan Allen needs to be in your lineup as well. And then, yeah, you mentioned it. Christian Watson, or should I say Chris Carter Part 2. All this guy does is score touchdowns. He has at least 1 in 4 straight games. They got the Rams this week on Monday night. They've given up 9 touchdowns and the 4th most fantasy points to perimeter receivers. So start Christian Watson as a flex.
You don't like Mike Evans this week, and I'm guessing that goes along with the same reason you don't like Tom Brady. And also you say maybe not Drake London, who's got a new quarterback this week.
With Evans, it's more of a beware than a hard sit. But look at his numbers. I mean, he's failed to score more than 9.9 fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games. And the Bengals have allowed the 6th fewest points to perimeter receivers. And also, keep in mind, wide receivers have the 3rd worst catch rate against Cincinnati. So Evans is a risk. And Drake London, before the bye, had a really good game. And so some people may think, I want to start him this week. Well, as you mentioned, rookie quarterback, Desmond Ridder. We don't know if that's going to be a positive or a negative for Drake London. And in the first round of the fantasy playoffs, I don't want to take that risk. So I'm going to sit the rookie.
The Arizona Cardinals continue to absolutely stink versus the tight end, and I'm guessing that's a major reason why Greg Dulcich is in your start list.
And Dulcich will drive you crazy because he'll have a good stat line, then 3 bad ones, then a good one. But here's the thing. Arizona's defense has given up 11 tight ends with more than 10 points. 11! Including Hunter Henry this past week. So I'm going to play Dulcich, even with the quarterback situation a little bit questionable there in Denver with Russell Wilson banged up. I think Dulcich is a low-end tight end one. And then let's talk about David Njoku, who has been very good lately, one of the more reliable tight ends in fantasy football, 13-plus points in 3 of his last 4 games. That includes a 14-point performance against this week's opponent, the Ravens. Their defense has allowed 11 or more points to 8 tight ends, and tight ends have a 73.1% catch rate against this defense. So start David Njoku.
As far as who you're sitting, you don't like Cole Kmet this week, and I'm actually really interested to hear why, because I'm debating it.
He's probably going to be started in a lot of leagues. And so this is more about the matchup than anything else. The Eagles are very tough. They've only allowed 2 touchdowns and an average of 9.8 points per game to tight ends. So when you factor in this defense is one of the better defenses in the league, Justin Fields is probably going to be running for his life. I don't know how much time he's going to have to sit back in the pocket, go through his progressions, and hit his receivers. So Kmet to me is a startable asset. He's a low-end tight end one. He's more of a risk-reward proposition. The same cannot be said of Tyler Higbee. I mean, he's gone in the tank lately. He's failed to score more than 8.5 fantasy points in 4 straight games. That includes the last 3 games where he scored, a combined 6.5 points. That's terrible. The Packers aren't even good against tight ends. I just can't play Tyler Higbee in what's a broken Rams offense.
But Baker Mayfield, 98-yard drive to upset everyone with only 48 hours.
This week he's throwing 3 picks. He's throwing 3 picks this week, guaranteed.
I know. Baker's still Baker. Congratulations, everyone that made it to your fantasy football playoffs. We will be here next week because you're going to get through this round, and then you got to have 2 more weeks until you finally get the trophy. We're going to help you grab it. Be sure to click the follow button and follow us at si.com/fantasy.